It seems to me, first of all, from what I understand from doctors, that's really rare. If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
And when it comes to establishing your worldview, I was curious, what newspapers and magazines did you regularly read before you were tapped for this to stay informed and to understand the world?
I've read most of them, again, with a great appreciation for the press, for the media.
But like what ones specifically, I'm curious that you...
all of them, any of them that have...
Can demonic spirits attach themselves to inanimate objects? The answer is yes.
Welcome to Twatwaffle of the Week. So this week we have kind of an interesting mix, to say the least. Our first story is not so much a twats, per se, but it does go to a point that we mentioned last week.
The existence of real conspiracies does not justify conspiracy theories.
This bit of wisdom, or an observation, comes to us from Logic of Science, via the Credible Hulk, both pro-science pages I reference quite frequently. The crux of Logic of Science article, quote, "Conspiracy theories conveniently excuse contrary evidence by writing it off as part of the conspiracy, whereas real investigations are based on the available evidence and don't blindly ignore any evidence that disagrees with them. Having said that, real conspiracies certainly do exist, and multiple of them have been uncovered. But the fact that real conspiracies exist does not mean that your conspiracy theory is logical or justified." End quote. My point in all this is really simple. It's also a point I have tried to make in one Morgan and I were talking about after the show last week. In some regards, it's a matter of semantics, but it's an important delineation that has to be made. Quote, "The term conspiracy theory specifically refers to imagined conspiracies that have no real evidence to support them and inherently rely on making assumptions to fill gaps in knowledge rather than actually basing views on the available evidence. The existence of real conspiracies does not justify these conspiracy theories, nor should you play semantic games to try to equate conspiracy theorists with evidence-based investigative bodies like the FBI." End quote. So, it seems of late that no episode is going to be complete without the mention of Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop to become Netflix TV show.
And this is from The Guardian. Quote, "If eating according to the colors of the rainbow and steaming your vagina is just the kind of health advice you crave, get ready. Goop, the new age lifestyle website of Oscar-winning actor Gwyneth Paltrow, will soon be coming to Netflix, according to reports. Paltrow and Goop's chief content officer Elise Loehnen are expected to host a new Goop documentary series as yet untitled, which is due to start streaming later this year. The 30-minute episodes will reportedly feature doctors, researchers, and alternative health practitioners and other experts on topics of interest to the Goop community." Oh boy. So, sometimes, as we have discussed on the show, determining whether a story is a real story or it's clickbait or fake news, it can be kind of difficult. So I'm throwing caution to the wind and trusting the writings of fellow pseudoscience debunker without a crystal ball that this is a legitimate story. Catherine co-hosts a YouTube show, The Smoking Nun, with Kyle Curtis, and is part of the Non Sequitur family as well as the Great Debate community. So I'm a little biased in my judgment of trust, but her stuff's usually spot on. According to Catherine,
Product promises to detox ex-boyfriends. imprint left on the woman.
A vaginal product called the Goddess Vaginal Detox Pearl promises to help cleanse women's wombs of their past sexual partners. The product sold online uses a combination of herbs and supplements wrapped into a tiny ball. Women are encouraged to shove the pearl up their vagina and pray away the ex's bad energy. There's that whole notion of shoving shit up your vajayjay. According to an instructional video on the Goddess Detox website, the CEO, Vanessa White, instructs women on how to use the product. White also goes by Olani Kisos, shills detox pearls that contain a variety of herbs and supplements. Some of the ingredients include Cnidium, Stemona, motherwort, angelica, and rhizoma. She claims these herbs will reduce menstrual cramps, increase libido, kill parasites, remove toxins, and help women detox their ex. End quote. I have no words. I don't even know how to approach this one, so we're just going to go for it. According to progressive secular humanist Dave Dobmeyer is his usual hyperbolic self.
Christian website claims aborted fetal tissues being used in food additives,
is PSH's headline. In their story, they cite a barbed wire column that Dobmeyer wrote and declares, quote, "Abortion is big business, and the government is in the promotion of research involving the use of fetal tissue." That's a nice term for aborted babies. Ever wonder where they get their fetal tissue? And what might they be using these aborted children for? Why food supplements, additives, sweeteners, and other things that human beings ingest? Yep, you read that right. Ingest is another slick term for eat. I didn't finish at the top of my class, but I was pretty good in English, and I believe that ingesting fetal tissue would be classified as cannibalism. Just in case you don't like my tinfoil hat, the dictionary defines cannibalism as, quote, "the act or practice of eating human flesh by mankind," end quote. Yep, we are eating our offspring. I often hear the refrain from pro-cannibalists, "How does my abortion affect you? It's none of your business what I do with my body. Except it does affect me when I swallow little Susie's DNA in a soft drink." End quote. If Dobmeyer were any more disingenuous, I think I would need to check my pulse. No U.S. food company is manufacturing or selling any consumable products that are actually made of using the cell tissue of unborn babies. What it boils down to, simply put, learn the fucking difference between a fetal cell line and fetal tissue. This so much reminds me of the hyperbole surrounding the satanic panic. It's scary. But to borrow from Snopes, whether you love them or hate them, they give a pretty good primer and overview of this whole fetal tissue and food issue. Quote, "What we're talking about here is a cell line derived from a single fetus over 40 years ago, claiming that current food products employing flavorings derived from research based on the HEC 293 cell line are actually made using the cell tissue of an unborn baby is like saying that processing a digitized image of a photocopy of a picture of a Beethoven manuscript is the same as owning a document in Beethoven's own handwriting. The original is not present in substance, only in a multi-generational representational form. It's a tough one to sum up in less than 3 years, but if you want to see where this is going, look up the HEC 293 cell line and the bullshit surrounding it. It irks me that, Dobmeier is intentionally misrepresenting research using the cell line. This next one comes to us from Ken Ham. Quote, "Those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. This old adage warns people with a fragile worldview not to attack the worldview of others. And this is a good warning for those who hold to evolutionary ideas. It's a glass house, cracking and ready to shatter. We're excited to announce we have a new eye-opening book edited by Bodhi Hodge and me, available for pre-order. Glass House, Shattering the Myth of Evolution." End quote. Quick, somebody alert the Nobel Prize Committee. Ken and Bodhi are about to prove evolution false. How many times have we heard that? A piece about 21 Savage was to appear at this point initially. While my questions and concerns still stand, basically how far is ICE willing to go concerning a Plain Jane or Plain Joe, there are too many questions now arising concerning 21 Savage's detention, so I took it out. But I will leave you with the above screen grab to ponder. And finally, for levity's sake, I'm going to leave you with this. Don't ask me what it means, as I have no fucking clue. But this is some of the shit that I wade through, and I'm sure others do as well, to gather information. Oh, and be forewarned, this has no periods, very few commas, and makes absolutely no sense to read. Quote, "The God believers from the old world to the new generations with their oldest and first-hand original known concept versus the dissenters who were once in conformity turned aside, defying its main roots and became as traitors of the founders after what they called a valid reason and justifying mentality or intellectual state of any biological material and molecular evidence that can suffice the impatient mind in its natural tendencies and appetites. The logic and reasons of man as the ultimate basis and most superior cause and purpose of all existence." End quote. Now, this was a standalone op in one of the crazy groups that I'm in, and there were like 4 or 5 responses at the time I recorded this, all asking, "Oh, what the fuck are you talking about?" Stay smart, people. Catch you on the flip side.